Hello.
Hi, Ken. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm delighted to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. So excited to be here. This is going to be fun. You can see my bear behind me is excited.
He's joining us too?
He always is. I always like to, one thing people will notice about me on webinars is I like to change the props and the things going on behind me. So right now, because it's summer, the screaming bear toy is there, but that'll change to keep the dynamic interesting behind me.
What else shows up to join you?
Oh man, it's normally the books. Like right now, we have Weird Michigan featured back there. We have Annoying Orange. One of the things I used to do on webinars is I used to have a pile of hats next to me, and I used to put hats on. People learn this. I have a goofy sense of humor, and for me, I like to have something that keeps the webinars from being the same kind of training that everyone is used to seeing everywhere else.
Well, I'm sure that you're going to make today's webinar fun as well as informative.
Yes.
Well, tell everybody where you're speaking from.
I am actually in the Boston area of Massachusetts. We have been having some of the strangest summer weather I've ever seen in years, where we'll go from 95 and sunny and hot to 50 and cold and windy and rainy like it is right today. So I'm in the South Boston area actually, and I've lived all over the country. I've lived in California and Utah and Detroit, and so recently just moved here in December.
Well, and I'm a Southern Californian born and bred. They consider us rare, actually.
Right. All tourists.
Exactly.
Right.
While I have lived in other places, I am a diehard Southern Californian, and today is about 94.
Right. I give people credit. I admit, I can tell I grew up in the Midwest, and I'm a Detroiter at heart because I actually can handle the cold a bit better than the heat. I lived in Sacramento for about a year where it would get up to 110, 120, and I was not very functional.
Yeah, but you lived in Lake Tahoe for a while too.
And that was true. That's actually outside of Detroit. That's the place I lived the longest, and that is, lots of snow, lots of cold. But actually, people don't often realize that Lake Tahoe has fairly mild winters. Although you get a lot of snow and you have that happening, it doesn't get the bitter cold that you get here in Boston or in the Midwest, where it drops down and it is bone cold.
Well, and Mark Twain always felt that Lake Tahoe was the crown jewel of the world's lakes.
It is. It really is. I feel that for anybody that, especially since you have so many people that are transformational speakers and spiritual, there is no place on earth like Lake Tahoe. I think my two places that I'm deeply connected to are Lake Tahoe and Sydney, Australia. For those of you who've never made it there, both of those to me, just from the environment and what it's like to be in those places, they are phenomenal places to go and just be in the environment and be with the people. It's great.
I love hanging out with Australians. They are always so fun. I can see why you get along well with them.
Right. There's a saying that Aussies used to say, which is, go travel anywhere in the world and have a beer with an Australian.
It's so true.
It's true. You will meet an Australian wherever you go. And I appreciate that about their culture. The two things, actually, one of my biggest followings in my community and really in the world was Australia, was Sydney and Brisbane and Melbourne. And the reason is, first of all, a lot of people may not realize Australians are very community oriented, very civic minded, very, together, collective. And they're also very inclusive and social. So you have that going for you. And, once you're in. Like, you've got the friends I've had there, have been friends I've had for many, many years. We followed each other. In fact, one of my very first students is in the community now. She's actually from Manly, which is one of the most famous beaches in the world, just outside of Sydney. And she just recently came into our community, and I met her right when I started doing this type of training 8 to 9 years ago, and she's been around. That'll be that actually gives me a funny story to tell for today. One of the marketing demonstrations that I used to do in a room, when I teach marketing concepts, I like to make up products. And so I am a big fan of really cheesy, terrible infomercials. I love to watch them. My favorite one, for those of you who've never seen it, if you want to watch a good, funny infomercial, is watch the infomercial for the Magic Bullet. It's probably my favorite one that's ever been. And so I would make up products. And when I first started presenting, because of my strange sense of humor and sensibilities, I made up a product that the Roomba was just becoming popular. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a vacuum that automatically vacuums your own house and then goes back. So it's a robot vacuum. So I said, if you have a Roomba, you should have a robotic pet groomer that chases around your pets and follows the hair and then chases them. And so we called it Clippy, robotic pet groomer. And this was probably 9 years ago during one of my very, very first presentations. And to this day, Manuela, that client, still references Clippy, the robotic pet groomer, and asks when the infomercial is coming and when we're doing it. And so, that says a lot about her as a person, but it says a lot about the culture. A lot of people down there remember those things. You form a relationship, you form a bond, and that's my favorite type of people. It's why you and I get along so well. It's people that are community oriented, and that's what they want. They want to help each other. They want to help each other grow. I was just saying this morning, that I know it's probably true of a lot of you out there who are healers or speakers or people that are out and you're working on really deep physical issues or spiritual issues with people. I just know in my heart and in my spirit that I'm a person that I prefer community. When left to my own devices, I'm a bit of a free spirit. I like to do a lot of things. I like to write. As people can see, I got my music here. You got music. You've got creative. I'm that way, so I'm not a person that you would consider to be the type A driving force in a business. And I can channel that energy just like anybody else can, where I can get very focused and very pushed into the business. But for me, you kind of got to know and identify more than anything what is the way you work best and the method you work best. And if you ever are finding yourself frustrated, kind of go, am I living up, am I building my business and my life and my career on the things that I love and I care about? And, every time I feel that, I try to do that, stop and say, all right, where am I? And for me, it is about community. My whole business is around community, and you've been able to experience it with me.
Well, and that's some of the thing I most love about you, is because you're so willing to share and help people grow.
Yeah.
Build that community. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So
yeah,
the top of the hour. So I want to welcome everybody to the third session of Speakertunity Sessions, brought to you by Speakertunity, brought to you by Speakertunity, direct contacts that get you booked. And so today I am delighted to introduce you to Ken Korse, who is my personal genius and guru behind a lot of what we do at Speakertunity. And but he is also the genius behind hundreds of hugely successful launches and lead generation campaigns. And he has provided businesses all across the world with his tremendous expertise. You'll find that Your Momentum Now community provides businesses and resources the connections to create and launch new client attracting training programs. And Ken is known nationally for his high energy, experiential, and interactive presentations that create momentum for entrepreneurs, speakers, and transformational experts. He's the founder of Explore Momentum and On Course Marketing. Ken consults with companies worldwide in various industries, including speaking, live events, real estate, and nutritional supplements. He's been featured at more than 150 events with speaking legends such as Les Brown, Mark Victor Hansen, Kevin Harrington, Nancy Matthews, and many more. And you can read more about him at kenkorse.com.
Yeah.
So I want to introduce our wonderful guest, Ken Korse, and get started on talking a little bit about how you can scale your business.
Right.
And so I'm going to start out and ask Ken a few questions, and you are welcome to, if you have questions you'd like, to put them into the Q&A, and we will be delighted to respond to those. So the first thing is, what are some common phases in the growth process of a speaking business?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I've been primarily in the speaking business, but really I have been a business growth expert. I help people with marketing. I help them with sales. I help them make more money in their business, and I help them find more clients. And so for every business, that's a little bit of a different process. And for every business, it's all about, having the organized strategy, and you're going to go through phases. And, for those of you who are big readers, I'd say a middling reader, but I've read a lot of the classic business books. And one of my favorite business books that I've actually completed and gotten through the whole thing as opposed to getting through parts is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And so, a lot of people forget the phases of growth you're going to go through when you're starting a business, and you're starting to focus on how am I going to make this bigger than me, or how am I going to get more clients, or how am I going to focus on what I'm doing? Because most of us went into business because we are great technicians, and that's what we're defined as in the E-Myth. We're people that we are highly skilled, highly trained, or has spent tons of time and energy and research in a particular area, especially those of you out here who are transformational leaders, who have spent years perfecting your intuition and your art and your speaking and your training. And so you went into business because you said, I am a great me, or I am a great marketer, or I am a great something. And so that's the initial phase of going through step one, which is going from being, I am a great talent, to I am a business owner, and starting to experience what happens when you're in that phase. And then what starts to happen is, I know very few business owners, I don't care what space it is, and I guarantee this is true of those of you watching this call out there, that everyone in the early phase of a business works beyond hard. I know very few people that get into business, and it cracks me up when business trainers say it, and they go, oh, the business owner just needs to not be lazy, and they need to get out there and do stuff. And it's like, for the most part, it's deciding the right things to do, how to grow, how to scale, which really what today's topic is how to grow your business in a way that doesn't make you crazy. And so in this, you go from being this technician to being a business owner, and then you go into a chaos phase, where what starts to happen is you're learning as you go. You're going through processes of realizing you need system, you need process, you need maybe teammates, you need marketing, you need new clients, and you start getting into the overwhelm and chaos phase of what you're doing, which can last for many years if you're not aware of it or cognizant of it. And then you start to move into a maturity phase. And so my goal for those of you watching this today is to help you identify where you are in this phase, because some of you are in the very beginning and you're brand new, but chances are you're somewhere in that chaos to maturity phase of saying, I'm in here, and I need some moves or some advice or some help that says, I want to go out and get a lot more clients, but I don't want to do it in a way that makes me so crazy that I can't function, or I don't have the systems, or I don't have the process to do what I'm doing. So those phases are important. Let me just recap them real quick. It's the move from technician to business owner, it's chaos, and then it's maturity, moving into that stage. So those are the kind of three phases that I was thinking of.
What's the number one thing that slows most speaking businesses down or keeps them from growing?
They go through what I call hypergrowth, which it's actually not the fact of not working hard enough, not having great strategies, none of that happens. What tends to happen is you go through hypergrowth, which means you focus all of your time and energy around either developing your core offers or the things that you do that are most important to your business, or you focus all of your efforts around going through the process of finding new customers and making new sales. So you spend all day, every day out at networking events or on calls like this, or networking, or in Facebook groups, or doing whatever it is you do to meet people. And depending on how you were as a technician or how you were when you came into your business, you're going to be dominated by one or the other. You're going to have tons of things that you've produced that you could take to market, but you're not marketing. Or you could have tons of people that you've met and people that you've brought in that you're not getting into that product. And so what I mean by hypergrowth is you put too much focus or effort or energy into one area of the business. And normally it's the area that you're really good at. So it's the area that if you're a creator, you're going to create. If you're a connector, you're going to connect. If you're a marketer, you're going to market. And so the number one thing that slows this process down is not having a bigger picture in mind. So the reason I share those three phases is there's a difference in how you do business in each one of them. And so for me, there's a lot of different people that use a lot of different acronyms. SMART is also a goal-setting goal, or is also a goal-setting technique. But I also use SMART when I'm talking about the things you have to focus on in any business. And so I'm going to give you guys some quick notes. Grab paper if you don't have it, and just write these things down. Because even doesn't matter your type of business, what you do, whether you're a speaker, whether you're a yoga practitioner, whether you are a Pilates instructor, whether you are a life coach, whatever it is, you need all 5 of these things, and I call them SMART. So you need to make sales. That's the S. You need to market, which means you need to find clients, so sales and marketing. You need accounting, so you need a way for the money to come in and be accountable for where the money comes in. You need retention, which means you need to keep the customers you bring in and keep them coming back. And then you need technology. So you need the ability to track it all, and technology done well is really going to help your business and help you put systems in place. But technology done badly could really cause you horrible headaches. And as Jackie and I have known in the process of working together, sometimes it's both. We have great technology that's great for us, and then we have technology that hinders us and creates huge problems for us at times. But the number one thing that kills a business is that hyper growth phase, and it's because you don't have that SMART, the focus on all the different areas of SMART. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think one of the other areas that really ties people up is just servicing the clients that you have. That's the one that I know myself and most of my friends get tied up in. You're so focused on providing what you've sold that you're not out doing the things that are going to scale the business in any specific way.
Correct. And I've actually, it depends on the person for me. I think that's very true. If you're a person that is a great fulfillment person, that's where your effort or energy is going to go. And I know I'm not this person. I'm exactly like that. And I've always laughed at this phrase, caveman marketing. I've heard from that of the caveman gets hungry. So the caveman has to go out into the wild and hunt the food. And then the caveman gets the food, and then he goes back to his cave and he's fine for now. But then he realizes it's time to eat again, and he didn't prepare for the next meal. So now he's got to go out and get the next customer. And when I talk about hyper growth, that's exactly what I mean of, as an entrepreneur or business owner, what's going to happen is you're going to go through these phases where you're really excited about the business, especially in the early days. And it's going to occupy your thoughts and your mind and your heart. And you're going to think about your clients, and you're going to think about your strategy, and you're going to wake up in the morning thinking of it, and you're going to go to bed at night thinking of it. And I am a person that does that very, very often in what I do. And yet, looking at that and preparing for what happens when you go into a day and you say, all right, I realize I'm in the caveman mode today where I need clients. And so I spend all day, every day out finding clients. And then I get those clients, like you said, now I've got to give them whatever it is they got from me. I've got to give them their session. I've got to coach with them. I've got to deliver their program. I've got to have that in there. And it's mostly because we don't have a consistent plan in those SMART areas to really say, all right, I've got to have something that kind of covers each of these areas. And what you'll learn very quickly is that you won't be able to cover all of them. In any business, the day will come that you say, I need help. I need outside help. I need teammates. I need people, because each one of those areas does need that type of attention. And you want to set the business up so that it's something that you love and supports what you do and the lifestyle you want, without driving you crazy. And that is not an easy balance for most of you, especially those of you watching out there that are sensitive or people that really take this on. I'm a person that I take this on. Jackie knows me personally and watched me, go through this in my business where I take these things personally. And it's hard for me when I take on a client and I feel like I can't get done what I want to get done for them, because I care about all of my clients that I take on. And so you have to ask yourself, where that is for you. Where does this break down? Where do you find yourself going into the hypergrowth pattern of saying, I'm just going to run at this area, and then I'm going to have to retreat and come back because I didn't have a strategy and figure out this other area. And people bounce around. Some businesses for, years and years will live in that mentality of running back and forth until eventually you just don't want it anymore, or you can't do it anymore. And in this case, that's why I say the number one thing that holds them up is that pattern of hyper-growth retreat and not having the plan for those areas of saying, oh man, I've done so much and I've done well, but at the same time, it's too much or it's not done strategically.
So what's the most important asset any speaker or transformation leader has in this business?
Themselves. So the most important resource you have in your business is you. And I think it's the resource in your business you probably think about the least. It's probably the one you think about the least. And I've heard, you find this in all sorts of contexts when you'll hear people say that they pay themselves last, or they hear people say the customer comes first, or they hear people talk about their team and all this stuff before they ever get to them and why they're doing what they're doing or what the original connection was. And again, that's why I like E-Myth. It's an easy model to go back to and really say this idea of we started doing what we were doing because at one point we loved it. At one point we loved the connection we got. We loved the feeling we got when we were in the work. You know, you were a writer, so you love to write, and that love of writing takes you into a career. And then the movement between those phases is where you start to get challenged in these different areas, and the movement between these phases, and really understanding, all right, from here, I've got to look at what is the strategy that I have for caring for myself in this business? What is the strategy that I have for leveraging myself well, not over leveraging myself, not hyper growth, not running after one thing and running back to another. And I think it's the last thing we think of. It's very easy. And again, I'm a digital marketer, and I will be back, I'm sure, at times to talk about strategy and how you find leads and how you run a campaign. And we may even talk about some of that today. But if you can't manage you can't manage the business. You can't fulfill. You get overwhelmed. You get zoned out. You don't have the system set up for you to be healthy and successful in the business. And I think that for all of you out there, the most important resource is to look at yourself and say, how do you approach your business? How do you keep a healthy relationship to what you do? How do you keep a healthy and realistic view of growth? Especially in this space, I will make a joke, is that most people here are dreamers. You're dreamers. You're transformational people. You understand what it is to have a big dream and to have a big message. And so it's very easy to look at that message, to look at the clients, to look at the people, to look at what you deliver, and forget that you need to manage you as a resource in the business and understand how that fits in from as early as you can. Even if you're a solo shop right now, all the way up through if you have multiple people on your team, how do you have a plan to use yourself well and to keep maintain a healthy relationship for yourself in that business, so you don't go into burnout, or you don't go into hypergrowth, or you don't go into, quitting, which that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, you see burnout in everybody in our business. I think
Yeah.
it's just a matter of, can you find someone like yourself who can sort of show you the path out of the darkness?
Exactly. Well, and it starts with you. It starts with saying, all right, why did you do this in the first place? What is it? What was important about this to you? Why did you choose this? I know for you, and I just assume, but again, it's that connector. It's that ability of being able to work with people and connect them with resources they didn't have, and to be able to say, and it's the same for me, I get great fulfillment out of helping people find their next customer, or great fulfillment out of helping them find, a partner they're going to work with for years, or get that product done, or like, for me, it's that helpful thing that really got me into this business. I call it marketing, and it is marketing. It is marketing to really say, I help people get connected with the things they don't have, and help people hear about them in a way that, because people may not have heard of them. If Jackie wasn't willing to market me, then none of you here today would have heard of me. And so, in this case, it's a matter of saying, all right, use yourself well in the business, understand what brought you here. And then when you start to move into the other areas that we talk about a bit today, you can start to say, all right, I have that, because it's very easy to do business strategy, to work with other people, to care about your customers and your teammates and everybody else, but it starts with you. What's your plan for you in the business and how you will use yourself well?
So you mentioned that there are 3 resources that every single speaking business has to manage.
Yep.
What are they? Okay,
so we talked about yourself, and that's number 1. Got to manage yourself, and you got to understand what you're doing and what your roles are. And you almost have to treat yourself as much as humanly possible. Treat yourself as if you were managing someone else. Like when you're doing this type of strategy, kind of take yourself out of the emotional connection and the emotional stuff and say, I'm a resource in my business, just like any other business. And then that starts to lead into the conversation about other people or other teammates. So we'll call them teammates that you have that come in. So who are the other people that are going to serve you? And that doesn't necessarily just mean contractors or employees, although you'll need those things over time. But that also means partners. That also means referrals. That also means, the people that you may have joint venture relationships with, for those of you who are looking for people that have shared connection with each other and that kind of thing. So you got to have the plan for that too. And for me, generally, you want to be looking to bring in, resources and teammates in areas where you are a bit weaker, the areas where, I'm in this business and my plan for myself is to be the speaker. My plan for this business is to be the connector. And I'm not so great at systems or process, which I bet that pegs down about 80% of your audience watching this, that you're great speakers, you're great connectors, you're great service providers, and you may not be a great systems person or a great tech person or a great organizer. So have a plan in place. In the early days, you may have to do some of this yourself. But what will start to happen is you need to have the plan, at the very least, laid out to say, who are the first people that I want to bring onto this team? What will they look like? What will they be like? What roles will they fulfill? And you want to be as specific as you possibly can, because this, again, is an area where when you want to scale and grow a business, you need to have written plans for these things. You need to sit down and think about them. Greatest exercises my coaches give me all the time. Write out job descriptions for these imaginary people. Write out, goal statements for your partnership saying, when I partner with my ideal partner, this is what I get and this is what they get. The more that you write these things out, even as a journaling exercise, or there are formal business plans you can get or go get. I have a document that's called the Simple Campaign Organizer that you can use to do this exercise. It doesn't really matter what it is. It just matters to say, how much are you looking at? What is my plan going to be for the other people in my business? For teammates who work with me every day, or some days, for partners, for my future hires, for my people that are going to help me grow and scale this thing. And I want to have written specific and clear ideas for who these people are and how that might look. And again, there are so many resources for it, but I want to be clear on that. And of course, the other thing I want to offer, even though we referenced it already, is if you're curious and we go into one of these areas and you say, I want something more specific, feel free to ask that in the chat or ask that in the comments on the replay. Let us know and we can answer that. But in this case, specific written plans for your teammates. And then there's the third one, which the third one is, what are your resources? So I gave you a little tool you can use, which is SMART. It's the tool that I use. And I always used to laugh because, again, it's a popular goal-setting tool, but I liked it for that. It just felt like the fit, so I use it for two things. And it's easy for me to remember to say I have resources in each one of these areas. Typically, my sales resources are people, either me or other people or people that are helping me bring money into the business. I have marketing resources, which can be anything from the technology to skills in that area to people I know. So I have to say, what are the resources that I have in these areas and how am I managing them? Accounting, obviously, I need to, if you're a business, even if you're brand new to this and you're making your very first sale or your very first dollar, you need to be thinking about, where does that money go into your business? How much of that goes back into the business growth and how much of it goes to team and how much of it goes to you? You want to have that in order and be thinking about that. Retention, I bring that up all the time of like, what's our strategy to deal, you brought up fulfillment, but what is our strategy to deal with the people that we already have, to keep our community happy, to keep it growing, to keep our customers coming back, to keep people talking about us? And then technology is the big one. And I imagine, again, for about 80% of your audience out there, that's probably the biggest challenge you have, because you may not be a technology person. This may not be something that comes naturally or easy to you. That doesn't mean everyone's that way, but you have to be asking yourself, can you find ways to either find support or find teammates or find help, or like Jackie said, people like me who help you with that, to say, great, you can understand the nature of your business and understand that a system can save you thousands of hours of time and can generate you many, many more customers in the long run. So again, to review those resources, you have to manage yourself, you have to manage your team and relationships, and you have to manage the resources you have in the various areas of your business. And I know for some of you, you might go, it feels a little common sense, but most of you, I bet if I sat down and I asked some questions and I started kind of prodding a little bit, you probably don't have that plan for each of those areas, or it's not in writing, or it's not somewhere. You would go, my favorite one is, well, people go, what's your sales plan? Well, it's, it's this. What's your accounting? Well, so I hear that all the time, and I'm teasing when I say that to people, but it's true. For a lot of you, even though that's the simplest fundamentals of how to scale a business, any of those things breaks down, you cannot grow. Eventually, you will hit a tipping point. You'll go backwards. You want to be thinking about them at all times. Does that make sense?
It sure does. And I've experienced those weaknesses at various points in my career.
Yeah.
If you really aren't looking ahead, and even if you're not fully, if you don't have a giant business, you're limiting your growth by not having a plan where you're going to be going.
Correct. And it doesn't have to be, this is the thing I tell people about plans. I'm a person that I am super organized in that regard. I like to have a big detailed plan with revenue models and forecasts and SWOT analysis. For those of you who don't know what it is, any of you recovering corporate people out there hear that and probably your eyes roll into the back of your head. But that's what I like, because I like to be able to read through my documents and have what feels like a very clear roadmap to me. Now, I think at the end of any given year, we probably accomplish, I like to say we accomplish all of it, but you never do. I like to say we accomplish more of it because we put it in that range. So my target is always to accomplish about 50 to 75% of the goals that are in those plans. And then I have smaller plans that I run with, or project management that I run with, to do what I do. But the written side is what's important here. Spend time in reflection, spend time in journaling, spend time in devoted to the idea of thinking. Another great book for those of you who want to look into this, there's a book that's called Essentialism, which is really about getting down to the things that are most important. One of the things they talk about in that book that I admit it's a lesson I have to learn again and again is schedule yourself time to think and plan in your business. Just to think. Go like, I'm just going to sit and think, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to, whatever your reflection is, and just allow what comes to come, and then go into that cycle. But you need time to think, and you need time to plan. And in today's world, most people don't do that. And I admit I'm very prone to that. I'm to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And the cell phone calls and the computer calls and the task management calls, and I've got 90 notifications, and I think everybody's that way. And you find yourself going, man, when am I going to give myself some time to think and plan and be strategic about what I'm doing and pace out what the future of the business is going to be like? And actually, even despite that, when I go through challenges in my business, it's normally one of the first exercises I do. During recent times in my businesses where it was more challenging, that's exactly what I did. Revisited the plan, revisited the model. This is where we're going, and just re-rack and come at it that way. Does that make sense?
It sure does. And you really make a whole lot of good common sense for people who have, struggled with any one of those individual areas. So thank you, sweetie. I really appreciate that. So, as we're talking about this, it strikes me that, you've started pointing us in the right direction, but what are the things that really make a business grow, and what can make it grow even faster?
Right. So obviously marketing is the thing that most of us, marketing and sales really kind of combined together, are the thing that most of us don't like to spend a lot of time doing. It makes us feel icky. It makes us feel weird. We get visions of something we think we're not. We get afraid that if I ask someone for something that they're not going to like me anymore. And I think that the people in this space, in the transformational space, are the worst for this, because you're exchanging energy, or you're exchanging feelings, or you get so much as the practitioner of what you do, and stop thinking about the financial exchange for what you do, or you stop thinking about what the systems that you're going to put in place. And one of the things that I'm seeing particularly in this space that's so critical is the online version of this space, the digital version of transformation work, of academies that focus on things like spiritual practice and meditation, apps that focus on journaling and gratitude and random acts of kindness and things like that. This space has become immensely popular because of people that are both in the transformational space as well as very marketing minded. And it's the same for you with what type of resource you provide with Speakertunity, to really say, All of us need resources to make sure that we are having consistent new conversations every day. And that's what marketing is. Marketing, beyond anything else, online, offline, anything else, is all about who are you talking to every single day that you either hadn't talked to before or that isn't a customer yet. And so obviously, and then the sales part is, how do they become a customer? What's the process of becoming a customer? And that, for all of you out here, the challenge a lot of the time is you either are uncertain of what you're going to be selling or what your packages are or what your products are or what you're doing. And so you need to get super clear on that. When you meet somebody for the first time, what are the options? What's the menu? You walk into a restaurant or you walk into a Starbucks, and the first thing you look at is the menu. And the menu says, here's what you can buy. Do you have that menu? Do you have that ability of, when you walk into the Ken Starbucks and you look at my services, do you know what you can order? Do you know what you got? Because you can't market it if you don't know what it is or what it's about or what you're selling. And you can't talk to people. And what tends to happen in that is you talk to a lot of people and then you start making stuff up. You start saying, oh, well, I can do this and I can do that. Talk about a great way to get yourself into burnout and saying, like, I can be everything to everybody. I can be, this, because I'm a passionate, caring person. I can be everything to everybody. And the reality is that's not true for most of you. So first and foremost, you want to grow fast, have a menu. And I'll just use that term. What's the menu? I come to the business that is you, the restaurant of you. What can I order? What are the side dishes? What's the main course? What do I get from you? And just think of it that way. You have a menu. What's the appetizer? What's the main course? What's for dessert? Where do I get to know you? Dessert is the thing we all really want anyway. But think about yourself that way. And I know it's a silly model to think about when it comes to your business, but that's really what it is. I want to know when I meet you, what's your menu? I want to know what you might ask me for. And the other thing I want to know is, when you come to me and I meet you somewhere, if I meet you at a networking event, or if you're here on this webinar and this is the first time I'm meeting you, I have my menu in the back of my mind to say, all right, when you ask me for coffee, do I have coffee? Yes, I have coffee. It's part of my menu. I'll give it to you. Or I don't. And that's not something I do, but I know someone else who has coffee. The reason I ask you to do that is, most people in their messaging, or most people when they want to market, especially in the online space, and we'll talk about that specifically in a second, they don't know their menu. They don't know. I can't walk into the restaurant and know what you're selling me or what you're offering me, or you're unclear, or it doesn't make sense, or it's a little weird. And this is true for speakers. Speaking specifically to speakers, I won't book you for an event or host you on my platform, and Jackie's team of people that she's met over the years won't put you on a summit, won't put you on a radio interview, won't do that unless they know, what are you going to show up and talk about? Why should I bring you on this? What's on your menu? What do you got for me? And so that is something that you have to be super clear about. Once you're clear on that, so if you haven't done the work on that, you need to do that first, kind of, and use that analogy for those of you that struggle with the sales part. Just say, this is a menu. People are walking into my business. I want to have the menu to hand them. And then from there, you want to say, all right, where do you find people that like the things on this menu? So you say, all right, I realize that my audience are coffee drinkers. They love Starbucks. They like coffee. Where do people go when they want coffee? And so I want to go to the most likely places I can where I'm going to meet those people. And the most undervalued thing that people do online, if you want to scale fast, especially in the digital space, is you want to connect with people online the same way as you would connect with them offline. And I know that seems strange, but you want to connect with them the same way online as you would offline. Online is actually no different than offline. People are still people. Networking is still networking. The thing that makes you connect, or the thing that makes you charismatic, when you shake someone's hand or when you hug them in the offline space, does the same thing for them in the online space. So focus your marketing efforts on making connection wherever you can throughout the process, and understanding that you have a clear destination of where you're taking them. They're going to get to see your menu. They're going to get to choose from what you want. But your marketing strategy starts by saying, all right, I have a menu. I know what I want to sell. And then I'm going to start getting really, really specific about how I bring those people in. And so the best example is, I just used some examples that would be applicable to this space. You have many different apps out there that focus on this space, from meditation apps like Headspace or Zen. You can get those apps, and that's what they're doing. And that's an appetizer. when you start on the menu, and then you say, now that I've had the appetizer, I want the main course. I either want more of this, or I want more in the space, or more of that education. And typically that's what the menu is for those companies. They bring you in with a taste. They give you something that they know that you're interested in, and then they take you to the next area. And so they'll say, great, there's a premium level of this that you can get that will take you to the next area. So that structure is what it takes for you to scale quickly. Have your menu in line, know where you're going to go or what your strategy is to find people who want the things on that menu, and then pick the places that are most appropriate. And if you're doing it online, focus on the networking aspect of it. I know people who don't do a ton of traditional online marketing. They don't go out and do tons of Facebook ads or strategies or funnels. For those of you who are familiar with this space, those are great strategies and I love them. But there are people who just all day, every day reach out to people. They go and join a Facebook group. They reach out to people. My biggest source of clients lately has been doing exactly that. And I do Facebook ads and funnels and all that stuff too. And they work great. But where have I met people? I see somebody post something on a Facebook group. I respond to them. Boom. Send them a one-on-one message saying, hey, did that make sense? Can I help you anymore? You want to chat? And that's where all my calls come from and almost all my customers, that type of connection. And it's the most undervalued type of connection in the online space right now, of actually reaching out and connecting with somebody. And that will scale you very quickly. You can fill your calendar. Like I was just telling Jackie privately before we got on this line, I've probably had in the past 2 weeks, 30 sales calls or 30 connection calls or prospecting calls, whatever you want to call them, where I was meeting some people, or I was telling them about a deal, or I was seeing ways that I could work with them, or I was just referring people to them and saying, okay, maybe we're not going to work together, but you should know this person. And so that is the most undervalued way to scale very quickly, because nobody does it. Nobody does it. In fact, another funny thing before I get off this, even though it's going on a bit long, but the other thing before I get off this is I'm part of a membership community at this point, and Jackie and I both are, where you get your hand delivered the names of joint venture prospects and people that you may work with in this community. And so I've been, of course, when someone says, hey, you should talk to this person, I send them a message. And then if I can't, my team sends them a message saying, hey, I'm Ken, would love to know how I can help you. Here's some info about me. If you want to check me out, let's talk. And I have scheduled call after call with people out of this network who have told me that no one has reached out to them. No one has done this. No one has gone out to them and said, let's talk, let's chat, let me figure out what you're doing. And it shows just how surprising and undervalued it is to focus on that connection, both in the digital space as well as in the personal space. Does that make sense?
It does. And when people send me prompts from LinkedIn and they've got any more than I just want to be a colleague, or, I always respond back with a note or a lineable or some of those others, just because it's relationship building and you get to know people and you never know where those conversations are going to go. And it's a matter of it's like in being in polite society, you always want to say hello and thank you and, just
right.
Courteous to people.
You never know. It's like you said, you never know who you're talking to or who they're connected to or who's behind them. To me, one of my biggest pet peeves when I see it, when people are talking about business growth and marketing and sales, is they say, you don't just talk to anybody. And I'm like, I don't follow that philosophy at all. I'll talk to almost anybody. Now, I certainly will keep my schedule within reason, and I won't talk to everybody in one day or 1 week. There may be meetings if they're not going to be my A grade meetings, then I might move them into a category where they're a little further off or whatever. So I schedule myself with respect. But I don't think there's anybody that I would have a conversation with in the business construct that I couldn't help in some way. That I couldn't either refer them to somebody, I couldn't offer them something, they couldn't order something off my menu. Doesn't matter what it is, I could help those people. I'm not everything to everybody, but I know that connection is great. And a lot of times, like, what happens is maybe that wasn't my customer, or they're not ready for me, or they're not at the level where they're ready to start talking about complex marketing or complex campaigns, but they know somebody who is. And they say, this guy was the nicest guy. He spent the time with me, had the conversation. He was willing to go to the line. And then you've got somebody who is hot to work with you, and they're chasing you. And I feel very fortunate. I have a lot of people right now that are chasing me to figure out how can I work with them and what can we do? And to the point where, again, I have to look into my strategy, as I talked about earlier, because I'm scaling a business just like all of you are. I've scaled many businesses and companies for other speakers and trainers and people who've done this at the very high level. And for myself, I have to do the same things I would do for them. Respect myself, respect the time, respect my teammates, and then look at what resources I have and how well I'm leveraging them in the company. How well am I using what resources I have? Because how many times, great example of this, how many times have you bought something and not used it? How many times have you bought a piece of technology or a book or a product or anything else that's kind of sat behind you and done what you're doing and just gone, you don't use it. You're not leveraging that resource. It's a key piece to ask yourself, what resources do you have in your life at this point, and how can you leverage them effectively and appropriately?
Well, and what I love about you is you balance taking care of your business strategies and being generous. And I think that's really what a good business person, especially in this transformational state, is all about. But
it's values. It comes down to your values. Like you said, what do I value? What do you value? Your values may not be the same as mine as you're watching this. You might say, the money conversation is a hard conversation. The marketing conversation is a hard conversation. I feel vulnerable when I put myself out in that way, or I feel afraid of it, or I feel, my emotional stuff, whatever it is that comes up with it, because 99% of the time it's emotional. 99% of the time in a sales conversation or a marketing conversation, when you're feeling silly about yourself, you're not even in that moment with that person. You're thinking of someone who said something to you back in high school, or somebody who said so. You're in all sorts of rejection stuff that has nothing to do with the sales. You have to be committed to the statements that are very simple. Call it a mantra, call it a saying, call it a motto, that you're worth what you're worth it. You're worth what you sell. It matters to you. You coach me through this, because it's funny, I can teach this and I know it and I love it and I do it very well, and I'm a student of it. I have to have mentors and coaches, just like all of you out there, who keep me on track when I'm not saying it and when I'm having struggles in my business, because if I don't, I won't remember, just like you won't. And it's the same, and I'm a master of this stuff. I've been doing this for 15 years and every day, taking companies up to the highest levels and saying, like, doesn't matter. You stop focusing on that small stuff. You turn away from that self-management. Nothing else can survive. It doesn't matter how smart, how talented, how good the systems are, how smart your teammates are. It will all fall apart.
Well, and I think you talked a little bit about where it breaks down. If you have anything more to add on that, and if not, just let's talk a little bit about what you foresee for people.
I think we've talked a lot about breakdown. I really want to spend some time just talking about what to do. I want to give you all some strategies that you can walk away with, because we've talked a lot about the training side, and we talked about SMART. We talked about the phases of business. We talked about big picture stuff, but let's just talk about, from a marketing perspective, what's working right now. And I have run a digital marketing consulting firm for the last few years. I've been in digital marketing for actually most of my career, but in particular the past 12 years. Digital marketing has obviously become the biggest thing in this space, and it's one of the biggest sources of new clients and new sales for all of you that are in the transformation space and doing what you're doing. And so let's talk about what is really working right now. So Facebook Live, that's the first one. For those of you that aren't using video, particularly Facebook Live, it's a great resource for all of you to connect, on a personal level with your audience, with your people. So if you're not focused on ways that you can get in front of your audience, it doesn't necessarily have to be Facebook Live, but Facebook Live is free. That's what I love for a lot of you. It's a way that gets you practice so that you can get booked. You can be on webinars like this. You can get summits. It might seem easy for other people, but it's because they've spent hundreds of hours doing webinars or being on Facebook Lives or coaching or working with people. So on your Facebook Live, your job is to offer something that's valuable. So you don't want to just get on Facebook Live and offer nothing. But keep in mind, value isn't always teaching. This is the thing a lot of us get, like, oh, I have to teach something. Value could be a great story. Value could be an anecdote. Value could be an example. It could be an exercise. It could be something with you in your life. And it can be teaching. That's 6 different things. I just said right there that your Facebook Lives could be. And then not before you even get into an interview or something else with somebody else, which gives you even more options for how you do these. But Facebook Live and creating that personal connection between your potential customers and your current customers and you is something you should be leveraging, both for marketing so that new people can find out about you, as well as for your existing clients and your existing customers. And it's the best price there is. It's free. You can get on it at any time and start using it and practicing it. You want to be a great speaker, and all of you do, because you're here and you need to be working with Jackie at Speakertunity. So you need to be great speakers, which means you need to speak every day. So Facebook Live is a great way to do it, and it's a particularly great tool right now. The second thing I would say, make sure that you're asking great questions. Now, one thing I want to add to that about questions, you see this a lot on social with people who will post I call them meme graphics. They're not really meme in this space, but they're like meme graphics with the inspirational quote and swans, flying over a car or something. Like that's what those quotes are. But when you ask a question, make sure that question has a destination or you intend to have a conversation. So a lot of people like to post, what's your favorite color? And then a bunch of people respond, and there was no purpose for asking that question. Like you didn't do it to really engage with your audience. You just threw it out there, and people love to answer questions. And that extends all the way up into more advanced marketing techniques like using surveys and quizzes throughout what you're doing, which is one of the things I really love in marketing right now. But the idea of use really good questions in your marketing and then engage when people engage with you. And you can do this both on your personal pages, your professional pages, in your Facebook groups, or on your sessions with clients. And you'll find that, these great questions can lead you into great conversations that help you get more customers or find out more about how you should be talking to your customers. So that's something you should be considering as well. I already gave you the strategy. I would recommend for those of you who need customers right now, I'm going to give you a challenge. I want you to go out and I want you to find each day 5 people on any one of the social networks, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, doesn't matter, wherever you think your people are. And I want you to send a direct message to 5 different people every single day and watch what happens to your business. Just watch. Go out, find people in various groups and threads. When you see something that looks like you can either be help or they may be a potential client, send them a message and see what starts to happen in your business. It's so rare that people do that anymore. And it's the best way to leverage things like Facebook groups or these communities or ways without being spammy and saying join my thing or do my thing or watch my Facebook Live. You can reach out to people directly, start building relationships as we talked about earlier. And in the digital space, there is no end to how far your network can reach and how quickly that can grow. And for some of you, if you're at the very beginning, 1 or 2 a day. But for those of you who have been in business a while, 5 a day. Go find some connections. Get familiar with that art. And when you're working with Speakertunity and you're working with what Jackie's doing, that makes it so much easier for you to be able to contact them. Your networking skills are up to par. Your communication skills are sharp. You know how to talk about yourself and you know what to work on. And then from there, the last thing I would say right now is kind of combining all of these strategies. We talked about Facebook Live. We talked about asking really powerful questions, even all the way through quizzes and surveys. And we talked about direct messaging people. Obviously, paid advertising is essentially the hottest thing going on in the marketing space right now. And for the most part, if you're serious about finding new customers in the long run and you want to scale your business, you want to have ways that customers start to come in without you having to go out and do it directly, the way I'm talking about. And I know that most of today's call has been focused around those of you who are smaller businesses or it's just you to start. But over time, if you intend to scale your business, you should be considering things like paid advertising. And in particular, paid advertising on Facebook allows you to leverage all of those things I just talked about. You can leverage your Facebook Lives to grow audience and even run paid traffic to them. You can run Facebook ads or advertisements to great questions or even to survey type campaigns or that type of thing. Or you can do that as well to send people direct messages. A lot of people didn't know that about Facebook ads right now, but there are Facebook ads that allow you to send one-on-one personal messages to people that allow you to get in front of them in that way. Now, you have to be very careful about how you do that and what your strategy is going forward, but you should be considering from the very beginning when you make sales, when customers come in the door, you want to be considering how much of that budget is going to go back into finding your next customer, your next person, whether it's paid advertising, online, offline, whatever. Some of your budget for every single customer should be going back into finding your next customer and making sure that you reserve that to move them forward. So I wanted to give some more practical tips. I know that those can lead into full webinars in and of themselves, and I know a lot of you want to know stuff about that, and I actually know when we wrap up today, I'll give you an opportunity to get some of that.
So we're actually kind of getting toward the end, sweetie. So why don't you talk about your community? And
Sure. So I am the founder of a brand new community called Your Momentum Now. We are a collaborative community, which means what we do, just as we talked about on today's call, is we focus on bringing great experts together with great business owners and great speakers and leaders to bring them together to create an amazing community. So we feature experts from all over the world that talk about all sorts of different topics. Jackie is one of the experts on our platform talking about how you get booked as a speaker, how you communicate with speaker leads and bookers. We have great resources on this type of training for digital marketing for those of you who are like, I'm interested in that paid traffic, or I want to know how to do a Facebook Live, or I want to know how to market with somebody, all the way through to things like some of you may have storefronts, like an Etsy storefront or an Amazon storefront, or you might be in physical product. And we just recently launched trainings and webinars on how do you start to develop that storefront and that physical product business. Because what I know is that if you're going to be successful in business, we talked about those 3 resources. You need to be able to constantly grow yourself. You need to be able to get connected with the resources that you need for your business to grow. So you need tools and training is what you need. And you need teammates. You need referral partners, all that stuff. That is specifically what Your Momentum Now does. We get you the training. We get you the resources. There are many, many connections, and more are growing every single day. And we give you the opportunity for those of you who are experts to truly shine in the space and offer what you have to our community. And that's what a collaborative community is. So the best part about this is you're probably going, all right, a sales pitch is coming. What's the sales pitch? And you're right, I am going to sell you something, because all of you that are watching this should go right now to yourmomentumnow.com. In fact, I'm going to type it in the chat, yourmomentumnow.com. That's where you should go, and you should sign up. And it is the very low price of free. So for a lot of you, go sign up. And the reason we do that is because once you get a taste for what we have, some of you will need the more advanced training. You'll say, great, I'm ready to run Facebook ads. I want to get booked. I want to understand how to publish a book. I want to have a physical product. I want to understand, ways to work on myself. There's transformational speakers in there, and there's opportunities for new transformational speakers. And so we bring it all together under one roof, under one community that's really founded around exactly what we talked about today, which is how do you grow your business, and how do you grow yourself, and how do you manage your team and what you do. And again, for all of you out there today, please check it out, see what we're doing. And in addition, there are many opportunities for you, whether you just want to watch and be a participant and see what we can do, all the way through to those of you who are becoming transformational leaders and experts, and you want to speak, or you want to develop a product, or you want to understand how you're going to take that message and you need some help with that. There are many opportunities in the Your Momentum Now community for you to do that as well.
And absolutely, you should jump on this. I love this community. The value there is so, you're out getting it for free, but if you were paying $500, you would be getting more than your value. So this is something that's just an absolutely unbeatable opportunity to learn from experts. And certainly Ken's got all kinds of courses in there, but for a lot of other people, but just Ken's courses alone are worth every amount of the time and effort you put into sitting and watching them.
Yes, and part of this was for me, for those of you who are going through the journey, why I did this and why there's a free community, which I went back and forth. And we certainly do have products and opportunities for those of you who are like, maybe that's not what I want, but I just want the Facebook ads thing. You can do stuff like that with us as well. But part of it for me was saying, what's your highest value in your business? What do you want? What do you want to do in your business? And for me, I said, I want to help people be successful. I want to help speakers be successful. I want to help people who are like me, who have great messages, great training, a great ability to connect with an audience, but who maybe don't have the strategy or don't have the product or are not sure where to start or how to start finding customers or start getting sales. All of my training programs are like this, where I start at the very beginning. One of the things I found in going through many, many trainings over the years, hundreds of hours of training, is a lot of times there may be some assumed knowledge in there, or they think that you know something that you might not be familiar with. So we have everything from very beginner trainings of how do you set up your very first website, all the way through to advanced trainings, which is saying, how do you segment your audience and find out who likes what, and develop these quiz campaigns that are killing it for us right now and making my clients 6 figures plus and doing what they're doing. That's what this community is designed to do, to bring those conversations together, to bring the training, the connection, and the resources together We're all partners in what we do. We share in what we do. And again, I know it's a really screaming deal today only, and you can probably get it tomorrow and forever too at yourmomentumnow.com of $0. It's free. And then from there, what you can do, get a feel for us, see what we do. And there are many different ways you can be a member of our community. We certainly do have a premium membership that we offer that gives you access to a growing library of training programs that we add every single month. Think of it as the Udemy or the Netflix of this space that gives you access to what you need when you need it. You get to pick and choose, and that is an amazing offer as well. So you'll see that when you become a member for free, but you get to test drive it first. No obligation. Check it out and let me know. Especially what you'll get right away is you'll get the opportunity to join our community and ask questions and give feedback and see what we have to offer there, because that's the first step you take when you join.
Well, and I know you've been talking a lot about speakers, but I want to also invite, we've got authors here,
Right.
we've got teachers and experts in all stripes, and they may have one part of the bucket, but they don't have the rest of the part of the bucket, and
Correct.
we're always talking about multiple streams of income here. And
Yes.
so what's great about Your Momentum Now is whatever your weekend, you're going to find the answers at Your Momentum Now.
Correct. And for me, keep in mind that since I talk about speakers and experts and all that stuff, that's just because it's my thing. That's why the community word is so important to me. There are people in this community where publishing is their thing. Speaking is their thing. We feature new experts every single week. In fact, I've been making a joke, and I love that what's happening in the community right now over the next 3 weeks. We have a phenomenal webinar tonight that's going to be dealing with women's sexuality and women's health. We have a great webinar that's coming up that's talking about nutrition and diet, which these are, again, self-management, self-care things on how you are in your business. And then we have highly tactical training that we're about to launch in our Maker series, where we are going to interview experts who have physical product businesses, or they invented something, or they created something new and they've taken it to market as a business. And so we're going to dig into their business models and say, what did you do that worked? And why did it work for you? And what are you doing now? And we've already filmed some of those, and those are phenomenal, and they're tactical to really drive you through how do you run that type of business. So there is such a robust community there of training, and every month, I mean, really every single week, we're adding more, and it blows my mind how quickly we've grown. It's been launched for less than 60 days at this point, and we have over 20 amazing speakers and experts already, and we continue to grow. So again, yourmomentumnow.com.
So I really want to thank you, Ken, and I want to really encourage everybody to go run right now and sign up for Your Momentum Now. And, Ken, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your enthusiasm and your fun and your humor. It makes this hour go by really quickly, and with a lot of highlights that I love just to share, and I'm just so delighted that you could be here. Thank you for participating, and I want to encourage everybody to take advantage of Your Momentum Now, and I want to remind people that Speakertunity is helping you get on stages, radio shows, and virtual summits. So subscribe so you don't miss any more opportunities. So thank you again. It's been a joy, Ken. So I'm going to sign off and by saying thank you and welcome. And I've certainly enjoyed having you and everyone else here today.
Thank you.
Thanks.